new playoff podcast. This is Dodgers edition. I've been looking at everything from an analytical standpoint. It's what I do. Analyzing the game of baseball, analyzing the playoff matchups, analyzing the statistics and whatnot so far in the first couple of podcasts with predictions. Yesterday was hard to predict. So I'm coming at this from an analytical standpoint, of course, still, but I'm also coming at it from a fan aspect. As a Dodger fan, growing up a Dodger fan, everyone grows up normally as a fan of a team. I'm looking at this game from both sides, from a fan perspective and from an analysis point of view. So that's what this podcast is going to be about. And if you're a Dodger fan, you're going to agree with some of the things I say. Some of them are extremely obvious. Some of them, I think, once I dive into some things, you're going to go, wow, I didn't even realize that. Hopefully you make some points. That's what podcasts are for. Some of the things I say are going to anger you, because that's some of the analysis point of view. But also some of it's from a fan perspective that I think people need to be humbled on and look at certain things. Let's take a look at last night's game. By the way, I was there. I was at the game. We had great seats. My dad surprised my brother and I with tickets. He said, hey, we haven't had a boys' night out in a while. We need a boys' night out. One of the coolest moves of all time. Just, a golden father who honestly is a diehard Yankee fan, but he just does it because he loves the boys. This is what you do as a dad. Surprised us with tickets. We were pumped. We were fired up. Got there early, of course, for BP. Sat there, enjoyed it. Enjoyed the atmosphere. Adrenaline, of course, as a fan starts kicking in right after the national anthem. You're like, oh my God, it's go time. Winner take all. Walker Buehler, Steven Strasburg. Must watch TV. Whether you like the game of baseball, hate the game of baseball, anywhere in between, this is must watch television. There's no way anything else was better to watch last night than Walker Buehler and Steven Strasburg in a winner take all. Let's dive into the game, okay? Walker Buehler has a relatively easy top of the first. He's bumping 99, 100. That's what he does. The Vanderbilt product is just straight nails. He's nasty. This game just doesn't seem to bother him. He's fired up no matter whether it's the regular season or the postseason. Anthony Rendon gave everyone a little bit of a scare, flew out to the wall. But anyway, 1, 2, 3, top of the first. Bottom of the first, couldn't have gone any better for the Dodgers. Jock Peterson leads off with a review double. People in the stands had no idea what happened, whether it was gone. We were like, what's going on? Oh my God, we already got a review. It's a double that got stuck in between the netting of the bullpen and left field. He's on second base. Didn't matter, scored anyway. Max Muncy goes up top, does his little strut, does the funky Muncy. That dude is so fun to watch. He was so clutch in this series. Guy goes up top, 2-0 Dodgers. Before, let's be honest, a lot of the Dodger fans even got to the game. Or they were still getting food or whatever. Nationals fans probably thinking, oh my God, here we go again. Winner take all. We've seen a million of these in the NLDS, over the last 10 years or so. Here we go. Oh crap. Top of the second, easy inning for Buehler. Bottom of the second, Kike Hernandez. He's in there for defensive purposes. Maybe to give a little spark, right? But he's in there for defensive purposes. He goes up top against Strasburg. Then you start thinking, man, is this going to be a rout? Well, you might start thinking that if you're a Nationals fan, right? Because you've seen it in the Game 5s. Dodgers fans aren't thinking anything. Dodgers fans could have had the start that the Cardinals had in Game 5 in Atlanta, have a 10-0 start, and sit there and freak out the entire time. Because as a Dodger fan, that is what we have seen our entire lives. Nothing comes easy. Nothing has come easy for this organization within the last 31 years. I've been alive for 25 of them. Okay? But 3-0, I'm starting to sit there and go, wow, okay, that's a big start. But we got to keep pouring it on. I want it to be a 10-0 final. I don't want to have to sit there and go, man, what could have been? Of course, knowing the score, that's what happened. So let's dive in to a couple of key situations. Cody Bellinger in the top of the third gets on via an error by Howie Kendrick. That guy couldn't field the ball in the series to save his life. Whether it was at first, second, whether he was fielding sunflower seeds or gum on the bench, he couldn't even put them in his mouth. He was throwing them and missing them. The guy was making errors left and right. Love Howie Kendrick. Used to be a Dodger. Just seems like a great human being. You root for the guy in life. This series, as a fan of the opposing team, you hope he makes an error every play. That's just how ruthless the game is. Makes an error on Cody Bellinger. I sit there and go, we have to capitalize on this. Dodgers have to capitalize. Bellinger immediately steals second, going against a lot of the analytics that is the Dodgers, which was just pleasant to see. It was pleasant to see. Listen, I'm an analytical guy. I like what Andrew Friedman's done in a lot of ways. We'll break that down in a little bit, but I like that call by Dave Roberts to have Cody Bellinger give him the green light. He steals second. You sit here and go, can't miss this opportunity. Got to capitalize on the error. That's what good teams do. It's what the Red Sox did last year. It's what the Astros did the year before. That's how teams win the World Series. They capitalize on every mistake. Every. And if not every, pretty darn close to every mistake. Matt Beatty, I agreed with starting him. I thought it was a great idea by Roberts to start him. I understand, rookie, in the limelight, you have David Freese. I get it. I understand that. If they had started David Freese, I would have been okay with that too. Either situation I'm okay with. Either situation I am perfectly okay with. All right? They went with Beatty. He singled his first time up, by the way. It just looked good. He grounded out. It was a hard ground ball, but couldn't find a hole. Okay, he grounds out. Missed opportunity, no doubt about it, but he grounds out. Okay? Then you have Corey Seager come up. Bless Corey Seager's heart. Bless his heart. It's a tough year. Coming back from Tommy John surgery, tough season overall. Pretty average to below average regular season. Finds himself in another big situation. Right here in the third inning. Have a chance to score 3 consecutive innings off Steven Strasburg in a winner-take-all. Got to capitalize. Strasburg punches him out. Much of what we saw from Corey Seager all postseason. Walker Buehler gets through the fourth. Then, bottom of the fourth, Dodgers don't do anything. Fifth, nothing doing. Then, top of the sixth, Nationals squeak out a run. Anthony Rendon doubles. Got his first hit against a righty all series, mind you. First hit against a righty all series for Anthony Rendon on that double off of Buehler. The biggest blessing of all time was that Anthony Rendon just kept coming up in Game 5. The first 3 at-bats with nobody on base. Whether it was to lead off an inning or he came up with 2 outs and nobody on, that was the biggest blessing for the Dodgers. But he doubles, squeaks one past Turner at third. Then Soto does what Juan Soto does. We sit there and go, how is this guy 20 years old? We feel like he's been in the league for 8 years already. Rips a single to right. Nationals score a run. Buehler settles back down, though. Holds him to 1. That's what good starting pitchers do. That's what aces do. He is the Dodgers ace. He is. He's the Dodgers ace. It is the changing of the guard. But he's the Dodgers ace now. Okay? But that's what he does. Shut the door down in the 6th. Bottom of the 6th. We already chalked up a big missed opportunity in the 3rd inning. Bottom of the 6th. Cody Bellinger leads off with a single. So this time it's not with 1 out. He didn't need an error to get on base. Finally finds a hole. I mean, this guy was pretty pathetic for someone who is potentially and very willingly could be the MVP in the National League. And he'll tell you he struggled. That's how it was. It's part of the game. Obviously, the Nationals have a great pitching staff. But for an MVP, you sit there and you ask more. You ask more of a guy who might win the most valuable player award. And I know the postseason has nothing to do with your accolades at the end of the year. They vote on it before the playoffs start, of course, because of no bias. But he finally singles. He steals second again, going against the analytical grain. Again, he steals second. Now you get a big opportunity. This one even bigger than the one in the 3rd. This is an insurance run. This is tacking on a key insurance run. I've said it already. I'm a big believer in the analytics. I am. I like looking at these quirky stats. They're good. And they're very telling. When you dive into the statistics, folks, I really encourage you to take a class on analytics. When you dive into a lot of these numbers, you can see who's getting a little bit luckier, who's getting a little bit unluckier, who's a lot better than they even are, who's a little bit worse than they are, or that they prove to be. You can't just say you don't like analytics without doing some research. You got to do the research on it. But this is a situation in which I'll go against analytics. I hardly do, but I'm going to go against analytics for this situation, okay? And even guys who I think are analytical, who sit there and go, although this might not be the best play, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. And that is Matt Beatty coming up. He just, grounded out. He's had 2 pretty good at-bats against Strasburg, but he comes up here. I think you bunt. Sure, it eliminates that opportunity of a big inning. It does. For the most part. Again, of course, you can still score a plethora of runs, a bunch of runs, with 1 out, runner on third there. But I think this is where you ask Matt Beatty to bunt. Right? Hindsight's 20/20. If he rips a single, we're all laughing, going, could you believe that we thought he should bunt in that situation? But this is one I sit there and go, hey, you know what? If there's time for a bunt, this is the time. You get him over to third base. You give 2 opportunities to Corey Seager and Kike Hernandez. One of them just to lift a baseball. That's kind of what they do best anyway. Hit a sac fly, manufacture a run. I think if you would have seen Matt Beatty square there and get the job done, again, still not even a given he could get the job done. In this day and age, no one bunts. For right reasons a lot of the time. Now, if this was a regular season game, guys, up 3-1 in the 6th inning, no way in hell I'm ever saying Matt Beatty should bunt. So maybe then people would go, then why would you ask him to bunt here? His job as a left-handed hitter, which again is pretty simple and obvious, is to pull the ball on the ground to the right side or hit a deep fly ball to the right side of the field, get Bellinger to third. He's got wheels. Doesn't take much to get him over to third base. Instead, he strikes out. I mean, tip your cap to Strasburg, made good pitches. But again, you just sit there and go, whew, bunt would have looked nice after that strikeout. Bellinger's still on second. Corey Seager punches out. Kike Hernandez punches out. You're hoping one of them can come through. And it's tough because with Seager, you just go, man, honestly, at this point, I'd like Seager to just hit a ground ball to the right side himself, even though that's not at all what you're asking for. He just looks so miserable in the series. You say, I just want to see this guy make contact. Maybe it'll give him some momentum into his next at-bat that lets him know, hey, I can hit the ball into fair territory. Instead, he punches out, and then the fan inside of you goes, Kike Hernandez, you already homered in the game. I hate this, but can we ask one more big moment from you? Can we? The answer was no. Strasburg just dialed it in. That's, again, what good pitchers do. It dialed it in. Unsung hero in this game is Steven Strasburg. His ability to find it or find enough, the willingness to fight to find it. After a pretty miserable start to the game in the first and second inning, letting up 3 runs in a winner-take-all, was able to get through 6. Kind of very similar to Kershaw's start in Game 2. Very similar. And I know that wasn't a winner-take-all, but Kershaw was still able to save some of the bullpen. He was able to go 6, find it again. He let up 3 runs, actually pitched okay. So, and that's another point I'd like to bring up, that if you think Steven Strasburg pitched well yesterday, then you also have to think that Kershaw pitched well in Game 2, right? Because 6 innings, 3 runs. I mean, it's the same, basically identical stat line, right? I would say both pitched okay. Gave their teams a chance to win. Quality starts, mind you. Again, you'd like a better start than 6 innings, 3 runs. Again, 4.5 ERA, but Strasburg got the job done. He was able to dial it in. I can't believe that Davey Martinez didn't have someone up in the bullpen every inning. He had so much faith in Steven Strasburg. It was truly impressive. I think Nationals fans, obviously, Nationals fans know that the bullpen has been, honestly, a train wreck for years, mind you. But still, winner take all, you have to be sitting there going, well, he doesn't have it, right? So we have to get someone up at least. But Davey had faith. Davey had faith. And he was able to stick with his powerful right-hander, and he went 6 deep. Now, top of the 7th. This is where it just seemed like everything kind of changed. The whole atmosphere changed. Stadium was rocking. It was loud as can be. Top of the 7th, scary moment. Kurt Suzuki gets hit. From a fan perspective, it looked like he got hit just flush in the face. Everyone was just silent, freaking out. You never want to see that, ever. Of course, Buehler didn't do it intentionally. It's part of the game. Let one slip. But, man, that's just tough. For a veteran like Kurt Suzuki to sit there and go, oh, man, you hope he's okay. You hope that he can come back at some point, whether it's this playoffs. Obviously, as a Dodger fan, you hope the Dodgers win, but this playoffs or within his career, this is just a scary sight. We saw the replay. We saw it hit him in the wrist first, which was very fortunate. It was fortunate. It was unfortunate he still got taken out of the game. He was out. It's such a bummer for him. But it just, the momentum seemed to change a little bit. All of a sudden now, the crowd's a little bit silent. They're stunned. Then you start thinking into yourself, you go, as a fan, you got to dial it back in. You got to sit there and go, wow, I hope Suzuki's okay, but I'm rooting here. I still rooting for the Dodgers in this situation. Then you start thinking, should Buehler still be in the game, right? He's right around 100 pitches at this point. You start thinking, man, does he have it? Can he get us through 7? Can he get us through the righties here? He does. He gets Michael A. Taylor. Of course, as Drupal Cabrera is a switch hitter, they wanted Cabrera from the left side. Cabrera flies out to center. He gets 2 outs. Then a tough battle with Trey Turner. He walked him. Really gritty at bat by Turner. Here comes Adam Eaton. And here comes Dave Roberts to the mound. He's bringing in Clayton Kershaw, right? A lot of people sitting there going, why? Why are you bringing in Clayton Kershaw? With that 12-plus ERA, why are you bringing in Clayton Kershaw? In what world are we bringing him in? He pitched very just so-so in Game 2. But why are we bringing in Clayton Kershaw here? This was one move. Listen to me. I'm up for scrutiny. This is what you might not agree with. This was one move I agreed with Roberts. I thought that Kershaw was the right man. Left on left. Left on left. I thought he was the right man for Eaton. But I said to my dad and brother who was sitting there, we were talking, we were discussing it, a lot of people were discussing it, we said, this should be his only hitter. Whatever happens in this at-bat, whether it's a punch-out, which is exactly what happened, or if the guy hits a bomb, single, walk, whatever, this is his only batter. He gets a big punch-out. Big. It was the biggest out of the series. Biggest out of the series. Massive punch-out of Adam Eaton. Everyone's fired up. Everyone's sitting there going, even if it was just one out, this is a huge, huge moment for Clayton Kershaw and his postseason blunders. I know it's one out, but it's the biggest out of the game. He struck out Eaton effortlessly on 3 pitches. Effortlessly. Dodgers go quietly in the bottom of the 7th. This is the most mind-boggling move to me. Kershaw had his moment. That was his moment. I understand he's on full rest. I get it. He's on full rest. His arms should be fully ready to go. But how much longer are you going to push a guy who is not good in the postseason from the 7th inning on? He had that great lefty-lefty matchup. Let it end there. Let it be done there. Instead, Roberts leaves him out there for Rendon, which I'm sitting there and going, how in the world are you letting this lefty-righty matchup happen? How in the world are you keeping Kershaw in? Let's look into the numbers on Anthony Rendon in this series. Anthony Rendon in this series, in Game 2, folks, in Game 2, was 2 for 2 with a walk against Kershaw. 2 for 2 with a walk. Rendon in the series against lefties was 4 for 8. 4 for 8. Obviously, 2 of those hits clearly off Kershaw. 4 for 8 in the series against lefties. His splits in the regular season are pretty close. He's just a phenomenal hitter. One of the most underrated players in all of baseball the last 3 or 4 years. I think his OPS is about 1,050 against lefties in the regular season. It's right under 1,000 against righties. So still phenomenal numbers either way. Hard to pitch around this guy. Obviously, you can't walk him in this situation. Put the tying run at the plate, of course. So you got to go right after him. But that right man to go after him was Kenta Maeda. Everyone could see what Kenta Maeda had done in this playoffs. He looked phenomenal out of the bullpen. Slider was just disgusting. But those numbers alone, sometimes we like to look at the big picture, and even though the big picture would say don't bring in Kershaw here, so that's first and foremost before anything. But even the smaller picture, microcosms, we look at a little small picture, a little snippet in a 5-game series. Anthony Rendon was 4 for 8 against lefties. He was 2 for 2 against Kershaw. Clearly saw him well. Clearly dialed in. And before that double against Buehler in the 6th, he was 1 for 6 with 2 walks against righties. 1 for 6. 0 for 6 before that double. So if you want to look at the matchups, you want to dive into those numbers, Dodgers are an analytical organization. How in the world is Clayton Kershaw set up for this failure, this moment that's going to happen? Everything we do in life, hindsight's 20/20. If Kershaw throws a shutout 8th, you say it's the greatest move by Dave Roberts of all time. That's what a manager puts himself out on the line for every single year. Every year. But this moment, I think a lot more people would have said, if Kenta blows it there, a lot more people would have been okay with it. A lot more people would have said, listen, there's still idiot fans out there who would have gone, oh my God, how is Kershaw not in? And all Dave Roberts has to do is go, he had his moment, that's it. He's got a 12-plus ERA, that is the truth. He struggled against Rendon, didn't like that matchup. That's he's all about matchups, didn't like that matchup. Somehow sticks with Kershaw instead of Kenta Maeda. We know what happens. Home run happens, right? Now, even though this situation should never have happened, now you sit there and go, well, I mean, now you got a left on left. Kershaw did well against Soto in Game 2. Soto didn't hit him well. So now you say, well, he just let up the homer to Rendon. I mean, is it worth it keeping him in to save Kolarek for a different lefty? But the problem is, there was only one lefty left. It was Matt Adams. That was it. That was the last lefty that the Nationals had. That was it. So after that home run to Rendon, even though it should have been Kenta, this is Adam Kolarek. Andrew Friedman went and got one guy at the trade deadline. One guy. It was Adam Kolarek. He had already gotten Soto twice in the series. 2 times he had gotten Soto out. If there was ever a moment for a lefty specialist to shine in a winner-take-all, it's not Clayton Kershaw. He already did it. This was a second opportunity. Kershaw had his opportunity against Eaton. As a lefty specialist, he's done. You go to Kenta for Rendon, and then you have options. You go, we could go Kolarek again for Soto. I think if Kenta gets Rendon, then you could sit there and go, you know what? I'll have him face righty-left because it's all right. It's a slew of righties coming up. I'm okay with that. I'll live and die by that. And again, I was okay with Kershaw against Eaton. You didn't want to burn Kolarek, right? Because if you bring in Kolarek against Eaton, then you have a really tough situation. Then it's, do we sacrifice and hope that Adam Kolarek can get a righty out in Anthony Rendon, who was just torching lefties left and right, no pun intended, to face Soto? There's so many situations here. This is where you break it down as a fan, and say what could have been. But I think the best gameplay here, was Kershaw for Eaton, Anthony Rendon gets Kenta Maeda, and then you kind of see what happens in that at bat. If Maeda gets Rendon, I'm fine with him facing the lefty Soto. Kenta was so nasty in this series, I don't think anybody was touching him. Now, if Anthony Rendon scorches a ball or something, of course, then I think we're all okay with, hey, I'm cool with leaving in Kenta. He's been good, but you have Adam Kolarek for Juan Soto. That is literally his job. His job is Juan Soto. It's much like a cornerback in football, right? Who comes in for a big play. His job is to guard a guy for one huge possession down the stretch. Or even a defensive replacement in basketball, right? Where they do those defensive-offensive switches. For one play. That was it. That's exactly what Andrew Friedman got Adam Kolarek for. Was one big out. Didn't use him. Did not use him. And again, none of us know. Only Dave Roberts and Andrew Friedman know, and the ownership of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Only those guys know whether or not it was Dave Roberts' full-on call, 100% his call, to make these decisions, or if Andrew Friedman and the rest of the operations system within the Dodgers said, this is the script, we want you to follow this. A lot of us have questioned for a long time, is Dave Roberts a puppet? Or a lot of these situations coming from upstairs. Dave Roberts has too much integrity. He put all the blame on himself in the post-game conference. He has too much integrity. He sits there and says it's his fault. But a lot of people question whether it really was fully him to blame. Might be, but a lot of people question it. Anyway, Kershaw lets up the 2 home runs. Kenta Maeda comes in, strikes out this side. I just looked as dominant as can be, and you sit there and go, that is unbelievable. Of course he's going to strike out the side after that. Of course that's going to happen. It's baseball, right? Then the bottom of the 8th comes up. I've seen a lot of people tweet, how is Kenta not starting the 9th inning? I don't even know what that really means, honestly, because they pinch hit for Kenta in the bottom of the 8th. With 2 outs, David Freese comes up. I don't want Kenta Maeda hitting there. You got to score a run. If there's anybody in postseason history you want at the plate, I think it's literally David Freese. He's about the only guy in that situation I could think of. Besides maybe Muncy in this series, Turner's been clutch, but David Freese is the guy, right? Had to pinch hit for Maeda there. He did his job, got through the 8th, kept it tied. David Freese strikes out, didn't come through. That's part of it, didn't come through. As did the Dodgers from the 3rd to the 10th. Top of the 9th, no Kenley Jansen. It's Joe Kelly. I was already questioning this move a little bit in the top of the 9th. I was sitting there going, I don't like this. I think this is Jansen territory. I know Kelly had a much better second half than Jansen, but Kelly didn't look good. You play it game by game in the postseason. It is game by game at this point. He did not look good in game number 4. Or excuse me, 3. Game number 3 did not look good. Just walking everyone. He was so wild. Kelly's had problems with that in the past. But hey, struck out 2, got a little fly out of Turner, gave the chance for the Dodgers to win Game 5 of the NLDS at home on a walk-off. Something that they had done more than any team in baseball this year. And what do the Bats do in the bottom of the 9th? Nothing. I know. Will Smith almost had one of the most dramatic moments in Dodger history. He missed it by about 4 feet. A lot of us have wondered, did they change the baseballs back to normal baseballs into this postseason? A lot of speculation with that, seeing a lot less homers. But baseball is a matter of inches. It's a matter of little decisions that mean the biggest of things in playoff baseball. Top of the 10th. Kelly had only thrown 10 pitches, folks. So if you're questioning him going back out for the 10th, you should not in a million years. He was the guy to go out to start the 10th. The only other situation I could sit there and go and say is maybe you wanted Adam Kolarek, or you could have really just done matchups there, I guess. But the problem is you're burning the bullpen and an extra inning game. You might need to save him. You could have gone Kolarek there. Again, could have really hoped he got the righty. You're in basically the same situation. And then gone after Soto. Julio Urias, the only other lefty in the Dodger pen. I guess Rich Hill and Ryu were available as well. Although Rich Hill had started last game, so probably not Rich Hill, coming back from injury in September. But they go with Kelly, okay? Walks the first guy. Here comes the walk bug. Now, a lot of us are sitting there going, I think it could be Kenley time. But the plan clearly was to let Kelly face Rendon, hope he gets Rendon out, and then Adam Kolarek pretty much had to have been the only guy physically imaginable to face Soto if you're not going to bring in Jansen here for Rendon. He doesn't. He leaves Kelly in, Anthony Rendon, who had just found it. He had just found it in those last 3 at-bats, 2 of them against righties. Hadn't hit righties in the series. He crushes a double. I won't even go as far as to question Dave Roberts and letting him face Rendon. This was the decision, another decision for me that I couldn't believe. The intentional walk to Soto with the bases loaded to have right on right was just mind-numbing to me. Again, another situation. Andrew Friedman got Adam Kolarek for this moment. His job is to find a way to get something so soft on the ground with the infield in or get a strikeout of Soto. They instead intentionally walk Juan Soto, something that the Houston Astros didn't do all year. They would have brought in a lefty specialist, no question. Instead, didn't do all year. Ask the Cardinals fans if it worked out in Game 3 with Brian McCann. Instead of letting Carlos Martinez face Brian McCann. You hate the intentional walk. Almost every situation. Talk about the analytics. Astros didn't do it all season. Have Kelly walk Kolarek for the bases loaded for a guy, Joe Kelly, who just struggles throwing strikes. He was a very average reliever last year at the Red Sox. Came through in the postseason for them, no question. But very average reliever. ERA plus was about 101. Just pretty average pitcher last season. Who was so below average in the first half, much better in the second half. No way Joe Kelly's still in the game here. No way. Got to go to Kenley Jansen. This is where Kenley Jansen. Say what you want. I've stuck up for Kenley Jansen the last 2 years. I understand he's had his struggles. Say what you want about Kenley Jansen. He's in the game right here if you decide the intentional walk. He is in the game to face Howie Kendrick. I like that cutter, and I like his command with the bases loaded. His command with the bases loaded to try and get something that either jams Kendrick, little pop-up, little ground ball, back to the box, something that Kendrick has to reach for, ground ball to second, you throw home, maybe throw to first, get a double play, but it's a slew of righties. I like Jansen's control better than Kelly's here. And it was a matter of control. Because Joe Kelly, now pressing, does not want to walk Howie Kendrick here. Obviously, you can't at all whatsoever. A lot of pressure, throws him a fastball right down Broadway. And Howie Kendrick goes dead center at Dodger Stadium to put the Dodgers out of their misery. I couldn't help but scream. I couldn't help but yell as a fan. But also as someone understanding the game, analyzing the game, thinking, how, at the major league level, can you set guys up over and over for failure? That was tough. I love Dave Roberts' personality. I do. He is raw. He's a happy guy. Happy-go-lucky guy. He owns his mistakes. A lot of cowards in this world, he owns them. Much does Clayton Kershaw. But the problem is Dave Roberts over and over. Could be Andrew Friedman too. For all we know, we don't know. But set these guys up every year for failure. Kelly's somehow still in the game for the next two batters. By the way, that was just another side note. Somehow still in the game. Finally, after another single, after he got an out to Yan Gomes, did Roberts finally say, okay, I guess that's enough for the 3-year, $25 million guy we signed in the offseason to get the job done in a situation like this. But again, it's another thing where Joe Kelly, he did his job in the 9th, right? He did his job. Much like Clayton Kershaw got that one out, Kelly did his job, right? And I was still fine with him coming in for the 10th. He had such an easy 9th. That's fine. Everyone can second guess. I hope you see this. But right when that walk happens, you start thinking, God, I think it's Kenley Jansen time. Then after the double, you're certain it's Adam Kolarek time for Soto. Then after the intentional walk, you're certain you're back. You're now back. You're just going back and forth. It's like playing Pong. Or it's like playing Arkanoid or ping pong. Tennis, like just back and forth. You keep sitting there. It's like a boxing match going. Nope, I want Kenta here. I want Kolarek here. I want Jansen here. How Joe Kelly's still in, a guy who can't throw a strike to the base of nobody out, I just can't believe it. Odds are Nationals are going to score a run anyway once Kelly put them in that situation. No question. But best chance to get out of that inning, I think, is Kolarek for Soto, and then you bring in Jansen, hoping that he got Soto out. It's your best chance after all that happens. But before that, the game should have been over. Kershaw did his job. What an unbelievable job. Would have been a great memory, much as he did a couple years prior, that everyone already seems to kind of have forgotten about. That miraculous save coming on one-day rest against the Nationals. Nationals fans don't forget it. Still haven't forgotten it. And I bet Nationals fans are sitting there going, well, I mean, Kershaw had done this to us before. It was time. It was just overdue to get him, right? It's all puzzling to me. It really is puzzling. It is. I always say I'm a big believer that managers get too much blame. They do. They get too much blame. They're not playing the game, guys. They're not playing the game. Every time a manager is putting you out there, it's supposed to be to succeed. There's no one rooting harder for you than the manager of a club. He knows his job's on the line every day. But they also get too much credit. They do. Sometimes they get just too much credit. Which is kind of maybe what we've seen with Dave Roberts, right? We've seen too much blame in certain circumstances where you go, can Corey Seager get a hit? He's having faith in Corey Seager every day. You're not going to bench him. You're going to hope that he finds it. Same with Cody Bellinger. Same with Will Smith. Dave Roberts he can't swing the bat anymore. Used to. Big stolen base for the Red Sox. Red Sox fans love him. But I think a lot of the postseason success for the Dodgers, I know they've been short of a World Series, but they've had great success the last couple of years, going to back-to-back World Series before this, was masked a little by Roberts' failures as a manager, and that's fair to say. And he composed himself very well in the press conference afterwards. He was demoralized, he was crushed, but he held his head high, and you just respect a guy for that. I personally believe that he should be let go. He was given the opportunity, and this kind of magnified a lot of things, of course. But I still root for the person that is Dave Roberts, and you should too. You guys can burn any Roberts jerseys you might have had from the past, or shirts you might have had, whatever. Like, if that makes you feel better about yourself as a human being, it seems like a waste of money to me, much like people were doing with all these Nike things, with the Colin Kaepernick ads. Like, you can be upset. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Burning your jerseys is just insanity. I mean, there's so many videos. There's Dodger fans running over Kershaw's jersey. I mean, there were Dodger fans burning Kershaw's jersey. There's a guy who threw his jersey onto the field. I tweeted, I quoted it. The Beach Report was the first one on it. I quoted it and said, "You really showed him. I don't know if Kershaw's ever going to be the same because you burned his jersey, or you ran over it, or you threw it onto the field. I don't know if he'll ever be the same because of that." Of course, I say that as sarcastically as it gets. There's no one that cares more than Clayton Kershaw. And if you sit there and have the nerve to say that Kershaw should be traded, you haven't actually been a fan, and you're not actually a fan. Clayton Kershaw's going to die a Dodger. That's how you treat someone who is continuously, year after year. I get it. I get it. His expected championship probability is negative. I mean, in the playoffs. He is sucked. No doubt about it. Especially, seventh inning and on. 3.6 ERA, just looking at ERA. There's a lot more stats you can dive into, but 3.6 ERA, 1 through 6. Still not great. It's not Clayton Kershaw by any means. We understand that. But sometimes that gets the job done. That means there's really good outings sprinkled in there and some bad outings sprinkled in there, right? 1 through 6. But his 12-plus ERA, you are setting him up for failure. If you're Dave Roberts, Andrew Friedman, and company, you are setting him up for failure when he goes back out there, for that 8th inning against a right-handed hitter who proved, even though the voting happened before the playoffs, proved that he might be the MVP of the National League. Cody Bellinger, if you just, I mean, this isn't like, matchups, right? Where it's like Draymond Green is guarding LeBron James or whatever, where you go really good defender, Klay Thompson's guarding LeBron, whoever it is, really good defender guarding LBJ, right? This isn't matchups like that, but if you look at this series, just this series, small sample size, of course, if you look at this series, Anthony Rendon embarrassed Cody Bellinger. Anthony Rendon showed why he carried this offense, along with Juan Soto, into the postseason. That it wasn't just the three-headed monster that is Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin. That Anthony Rendon is going to make a fortune this offseason. He came up and did the things he needed to do when it mattered most. He carried his say what you want about it. Howie Kendrick hit the grand slam. Howie Kendrick, again, set up for success there. Bases juice, nobody out. All he's trying to do is hit a sacrifice fly. Even if Bellinger catches that at the wall, you got first and third. Soto may even tag from first. You may even have second and third with a run in there and still in trouble. Anthony Rendon hits that bomb, gives him the spark. Anthony Rendon gets the double before that. Then Soto does his job. Anthony Rendon homers, Soto homers. Eaton grits out a walk. Anthony Rendon doubles. Anthony Rendon was in the middle of everything last night. DC, build the statue. Build the statue. I know you got 2 more series left. But the Washington Nationals have to give this guy every penny. If they have it in the budget, they got to give this guy every penny. Face of the franchise, no question. Even more so, I think, than a Max Scherzer or Steven Strasburg. That guy single-handedly carried them last night in a winner-take-all. Something that Nationals fans, Expos fans, had seen it in the 80s. Nationals fans had never seen. But yeah, this was tough. It was tough to swallow. I was at Game 7 of the World Series against the Astros. This was almost just as hard. It was different emotions. Game 7 was just straight disappointment. It just seemed like the Dodgers were dead from the start. Yu Darvish didn't have it, tipped his pitches, whatever it was. And again, the Dodgers scored 1 run. They just had no chance. There was no life at all. This game was just a ball breaker. This was shocking. It was frustrating. It was just straight anger and just overall just puzzling situations. Up 3-0. Bad decision-making by the manager. Pitchers couldn't come through in those situations. But one thing that I haven't heard anyone really, hardly, on talk show, radio today, or anyone, the one thing I want to point out, as Dodger fans, we've seen this a lot. Terrific lineup. Dodgers had a great lineup. Andrew Friedman did a good job with the lineup. I'm going to get it up on Andrew Friedman in a second here, but where did the bats go? Where did they go? First 2 innings, Dodgers on pace for about 15 runs. Where did the bats go? Lifeless. Big situations. Third inning, couldn't get him in. Didn't decide to bunt in the sixth. Where did they go? Didn't capitalize when it mattered. Had a chance in the first inning, after those 2 runs, to tack on more. Corey Seager struck out. It was tough. It's just so many times in sports, especially in baseball, that situation finds you. It's going to keep finding you, whether you step up or don't. That's been Kershaw in the playoffs, even though arguably he's been put up into just situations where he's going to fail statistically, if you look at the numbers. But Corey Seager, he was the guy. He was the guy I highlight, at the plate. Just nowhere to be found. And that's fine. If you want to give Roberts and Kershaw scapegoats, whatever, that's what fans are going to do. And that's pretty much what everyone on talk show radio has been talking about, is Clayton Kershaw. It's really him and Roberts are the only 2 names I've heard. Hardly heard Kelly, who gets the loss, mind you, in this game. Lets up 4 big runs. Still like the Dodgers' chances. They were due for a run at some point, right? I mean, it didn't happen, but even if Joe Kelly gets that sac fly there, right? It gets Howie Kendrick to fly out, sac fly, finds a way to bear down, or Jansen, or whoever comes in, bears down, holds it to 1. The Dodgers' bats go silent. They go silent, but you got to hold it, that big inning. You got to hold that big inning. I'm a former college reliever. I never pitched in the big leagues. I never had a chance. I'm 5'5", 100 and nothing. I'm like Rudy. Not as stocky, really. Not a whole lot of meat on my bones at all. I've pitched in some pressure situations. I pitched in an extra inning game at Vanderbilt, in a game in which Walker Buehler started. I couldn't get the job done. I got the loss. It's a great story I'd like to tell. I let my teammates down. I was frustrated. I owned it. I said in the huddle after the game, that game's on me. Had a chance to beat a top 5 team in the country. I felt like I let my team down. But it's a great story, because everyone can come back from this. Whether you're Seager at the plate or Bellinger at the plate, Will Smith had a bad series. Chris Taylor had a bad series. A.J. Pollock was miserable, big offseason signing. Everyone can come back from this. Everyone. Even Dave Roberts, who may get fired, can come back from this. It's all about mentality. And as a fan, you got to sit there and realize, if you're a true fan, you're angry right now. I'm angry. Everyone's angry. I guarantee you, you're not as angry as the guys who play the game, who might have blown it or struggled or could have come up in a big situation. Rich Hill cried. He cried. Cried for Clayton Kershaw. That's what brotherhood means. That's what sticking together means. As a fan, you have to realize that. You have to sit there and go, hey, I'm going to be back next year. It stings now, and I'm going to need a long season of football or Laker basketball or, the Rams, if you're in them, Chargers, whatever, to forget about this one, right? Last couple of points here. Andrew Friedman, he's done a great job with the depth. He's done a great job with the farm system. He's done a great job of finding cheap guys. His analytics work in a lot of ways. A lot of ways. Got to appreciate what he's done with the lineup. Finding guys like Max Muncy and Matt Beatty and all these guys, no doubt about it. Chris Taylor a couple years ago. I mean, what he has done there has just been terrific. I'm sure there's a lot of names we don't even really know within the organization that have helped him, of course. That's why you bring in great personnel, but he's done a great job. Okay? Rotation with Kershaw and Ryu was pretty much set. Obviously, drafted Buehler. A lot of scouts get involved in there. Little tip of the cap to the scouts, getting a now ace for the Dodgers, changing of the guard. Rich Hill, of course, battled injuries. It's tough. You wonder if they're going to sign him or not. You wonder if they should. Love the personality. You never know, but helped sustain the rotation, let's say, without butchering it. Signed Ryu. No one else wanted to give him a bigger offer. Signed the qualifying deal. He likes LA. We'll see him as a free agent. Done a great job with the rotation of the lineup. Bullpen, though, right? Let's talk about the biggest issue, right? Let's get to it. The bullpen. This is the one thing besides all the analytics that I heard about Andrew Friedman coming into the Dodgers organization from the Rays was, A, can he handle the bigger budget, bigger market? Will he go sign guys? Will he spend money? For the most part, he's done that. For Christ's sake, guys, he went after Machado last year. I mean, that was the best guy available. He went after him. Gave up some decent prospects. Yasniel Diaz, we're still yet to see him really with the Orioles. See how his career turns out. Again, you never know who wins a deal until you win a championship, or that guy turns out to be Gleyber Torres over from the Cubs to the Yankees. But did both, people win in that trade? Arguably. Cubs won the World Series. Yankees could win the World Series this year. Gleyber right in the mix. But you never really know. But they went after Machado last year, made the World Series, couldn't get it done. Didn't sign him this year in favor of Seager. Seager struggled, so you never know. But bullpen. Andrew Friedman, that was the biggest thing, was his management of bullpens, finding cheap pieces, not signing guys to big deals. Yet he signed Jansen to a big deal, even though you could tell that Jansen was regressing a little bit. He was struggling a little bit. We had saw fragments of this already. I'm still a believer in Kenley. I still think the cutter can play. A lot of it's location. A lot of it's home runs. If he can keep the ball in the yard, Kenley is fine. But his whip is still pretty darn good. But the home runs per 9 are ridiculously bad for a closer. That's his key problem. Strikeout numbers are still there for the most part, guys. If you dive into the numbers, it's the long ball. But what has Jansen's supporting cast been the last 5 years? Who has Andrew Friedman gone and got? He went for Scott Alexander from the Royals. That guy's been injury-prone only, hasn't really done well or anything meaningful. Went after Adam Liberatore, injury-prone again. So maybe you say unlucky, but kind of nowhere to be found. He traded Josh Fields, folks. For Josh Fields. He traded Yordan Alvarez for Josh Fields. The Astros butchered him in that deal. For a guy who's supposed to find good pieces, where have they been? The pieces the Dodgers have used in the playoffs and the World Series the last few years. Ryan Madson struggled tremendously last year. They've used Julio Urias out of the pen, who's a starter. We're all waiting for him to be a starter. I can't believe he's only like 22 years old, 23 years old. And Clayton Kershaw. They continuously go to Kershaw out of the bullpen. That's not finding pieces. I'm okay with using guys you already have. They turned Kenta into a bullpen piece, right? That's fine. I'm okay with building within the organization. But if you don't have anyone better, if we have to use Kershaw in the 8th, what have you gone and got? What have you gone and got? If you sign Jansen to that contract and can't use him in a pressure situation, what are you doing? You signed Joe Kelly, who was an average pitcher last year at the pen for the Red Sox. Red Sox fans love him because he came through in the postseason. Much as if any of these guys, if Joe Kelly would have come through, all the regular season is forgiven. That's how the game of baseball is. That's how any sport is. But the big contract to Joe Kelly, big contract, that's the guy who blows it in that situation. The only thing I question with Andrew Friedman is the one thing that everyone raved about. It's his usage of the bullpen. Because let's be honest, that lineup in rotation, money, built to win a World Series. Cave, Dodgers scored 2 runs in Game 2. They scored 1 run in Game 4. They scored 3 runs last night. The lineup arguably killed it. They scored 6 runs and then 10. Deserved to win for 2. Didn't deserve to win for 3. That's underachieving, though. That's just full out underachieving. They're good enough. Rotation's good enough. Bullpen, not good enough. Not good enough. Really just not good enough. He has not gone out and got the pieces, and I say he, again, it's a collective effort, have not gone out and gotten the pieces. We're going to see on display tonight Nick Anderson for the Rays. He's coming in at some point today, no matter what the score is. That's a piece that a guy like Andrew Friedman just completely missed on. It happens. That's part of the game. That's why we get to sit back and scrutinize, and these guys have their jobs at stake. No doubt about it. And I get that. I totally get that. But Nick Anderson, that was a big miss. Daniel Hudson, who owned the Dodgers in this series, owned them. We saw him in the 9th inning get it to a 10th. Daniel Hudson was available. He got him last year. Didn't go after him this year. Nationals did instead. It's just right there in front of your face, even in the series with Daniel Hudson. Some people would have said, well, Daniel Hudson didn't really do well for the Dodgers last year. Why would you go for him again? Nationals got lucky. Well, fine. Then you can't be the same guy, of course, that sits there and says, hey, why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? Okay? But I question the bullpen. I've questioned it for 5 years since he came in. It's the same problem every year. Every single year. He got Brandon Morrow. Great move. Great move. And it sure turns out it looked like it was a great move to let him go, right? Great move to let him go. Okay. That's one good bullpen piece, right? So he's gotten one in 5 years. We loved Brandon Morrow. He was a star that year in 2017. Been hurt with the Cubs. Hasn't been anywhere to be found. A lot of people I saw wanted Kimbrel. You weren't going to go after Kimbrel, were you? Because if you did, you would have had a lot of misery. Ask Cubs fans. They're not happy now. Bet a lot of Cubs fans wanted him. He didn't want to give the big contract. But he gave the big contract to Jansen, who wasn't used in this game. He gave the big contract to Kelly, who struggled. He went and got Kolarek, wasn't used in this game. So you wonder, was it Dave Roberts' fault? Did Friedman tell him this is what I want? You just don't know. One thing I do know is that we get to scrutinize. Their jobs are at stake. And guess what? They want to win just as much as you do. They want to win just as much as you do. I'm going to be back next year rooting. That's just how it goes as a fan. But yes, there's question marks. It's good to analyze. It's good to get it out. It's good to kind of spill it out and say, hey, here's what's going on. But if you're the person that burns a jersey, if you're the person that runs it over, throws it on the field, if you're the person that says trade Clayton Kershaw, the cornerstone of the franchise, a guy who's given everything, who handled it with such grace, said this loss is on me. I've let the team down again in the postseason. You want to keep trying to break him down? That's fine. But next year in 2020, when the Dodgers get ready for spring training, when pitchers and catchers report, I don't want to see you call yourself a fan, okay? Because you're not. You're an angry person who can't handle their emotions. This is the game of baseball. It's a way of life for a lot of us. It is. I mean, it is. It's okay to be frustrated. But back in 2020, when we get there, whether it's with Dave Roberts or not, you're going to enjoy this team. You're going to enjoy the ride. We hope that Andrew Friedman goes for a bullpen piece. Tough year. Hope and some of you can watch the playoffs the rest of the way. Maybe you won't be. I'll be doing another podcast about it. Tough way to end the season, no doubt. A lot of question marks going into 2020. But as a Dodger fan, there's a lot of misery that comes with some glory. I'm excited for 2020. I could already say that. Thanks for listening. One more thing I want to bring up. Little PS note. I know I said thanks for listening. One more thing I want to bring up. If you think this is so bad, if you think this is so miserable being a Dodger fan, oh, poor us. Haven't won in 31 years. Picture the Cubs. Picture the Red Sox, what they went through. Some people never even got to live for a World Series. Picture the Pirates or the Padres or the Mariners, whose fans sit there and go, well, I mean, we don't even get there. Like we can't even get there. I would still rather be at a Game 5 with my heart broken than get there. If you're the type of person that says, oh, I would way rather not be in the playoffs than have this misery, you're not a real fan. Your opinion is wrong. You could be a Minnesota Twins fan. They've lost 16 straight playoff games. 16 straight. Twins fans would beg to be Dodgers fans right now. Not to say they all of a sudden would want to root for the Dodgers. No, of course not. If they're diehards, they're sticking with the Twins through all the misery till the glory hits. And they win a postseason game or win a series or win a World Series. Ask some of your neighbors, and I say neighbors, they're not actually in Los Angeles, they're in Orange County, but ask some Angels fans how they feel. They're potentially wasting the greatest player that we've ever seen and will ever see in our lifetime away. They're wasting him away. Angels haven't even gotten close. They're miserable. If you think the Dodgers are so miserable, if you think being a Dodger fan is so bad, I feel sorry for you. Because there are organizations out there that just think that you're so naive. Seen 2 World Series in a row. It didn't go the right way, no doubt. There's been a lot of questions you can still analyze just as I did today. Of course, you still have the right to be frustrated. That's the art of the fan. But ask those organizations. Ask a Moneyball organization like Billy Beane and the A's who have to scrape and scratch to get to the wild card game. They got to cut budget left and right. They have to do way more than the Dodgers have to do. Dodgers have the budget. Baseball within itself, that's another podcast for another day, but it's so skewed towards the larger markets, it's crazy. But if you think being a Dodger fan is so miserable, you're naive. That's the truth.